Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gaman Singh. Topping our newscast, a bill moving through the Senate would launch a cigar industry in the Virgin Islands, or at least that's the hope of bill sponsor Senator Jean Ford. Bill number 31-0115 would allow the creation of a cigar factory, as well as provide exemptions on the public smoking ban. News 2's April Knight has details.
The Senate Finance Committee approved a bill on Tuesday that its proponents say could get the Virgin Islands on board the fast-growing global cigar industry.
This bill will create jobs as we grow local tobacco, and we attempt to have a factory and have individuals actually roll in tobacco.
Cigar aficionado Roger Minkoff is already seeing various types of revenue for the government.
You're looking at rent that's being paid to a landlord who pays gross receipts taxes. You're looking at employment for income taxes. You're looking at gross receipts taxes for the sale of all of the product.
The bill would also repeal the current exemption of cigars from excise taxes, the revenues from which would go directly to the general fund, according to BIR Director Marvin Pickering. He cannot say definitively, however, how much the territory would benefit from the repeal without further data. Even though the committee approved the bill, some senators stressed the need to ensure protections for those outside cigar establishments, for example, who do not want to partake in the activity.
Additional regulations that need to be put in place as to how these public lounge will be operated so that it does not impact individuals that do not want to necessarily be a part of the cigar smoke.
An amendment by Senator Ford would also raise the excise tax on cigars from 20 to 25%. Reporting for News 2, I'm April Knight.
Now, Senator Tregenza Roach voted no, while Senator Kurt Viale was absent during voting. The bill was forwarded to the Rules Committee for further consideration. Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs Commissioner Devin Carrington announced the launch of a network of social media pages to aid in consumer awareness, education, and protection. A monthly newsletter called Careful Consumer will be generated once a month, they say, on the third Wednesday in order to highlight various topics in consumer advocacy. Social media addresses include Facebook, Like Us, Twitter, Follow Us. Consumers can aid the department, he says, so more reports can undergo investigation and DLCA can take appropriate action. This includes sending pictures and even making reports directly to the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs. Pictures and reports can be sent to the DLCA's consumer Facebook page for direct access by departments, inspectors, and enforcement officers. The Virgin Islands received 3 confirmed leadership members to the governor's cabinet today. Clifford Rogers, director of the Virgin Islands Fire Service, Randolph Bennett, commissioner at the Department of Property and Procurement, and Rick Mulgrave, director at the Bureau of Corrections. They were sworn into office today in a ceremony at Government House in Christiansted, St. Croix. Here's more.
Today, Wednesday, January 20th, 3 members of the governor's cabinet were sworn into office. All 3 gentlemen received acclamations for their past achievements.
We are adding to what I consider our all-star team.
Clifford Joseph was appointed on July 31st, 2015 as the director of the Virgin Islands Fire Service and stated that he was pleasantly surprised by the nomination.
As a firefighter, I did not envision one day becoming the director of the fire service.
Director Joseph showed his appreciation to the Lieutenant Governor and to the Governor with symbolic gifts. Randolph Bennett was appointed as a commissioner to the Department of Property and Procurement on April 8, 2015. Bennett exclaimed that his role in the administration has not come without scrutiny, but he has persevered.
Because I stand before you and I can tell you today that this position is not an easy one. And having been here for almost a year, this department has been through many challenges, but we have met those challenges head on.
Rick Mulgrave, the director at the Bureau of Corrections, was appointed by the governor for his 20-plus years of experience in project management, along with his background in jail supervision.
I'm letting the people of the Virgin Islands and our young people know that if you have the courage, if you have the interest in working in the correction science, now's the time to get on board, now's the time to visit the Division of Personnel and sign up. the Bureau of Corrections have a powerful leader.
The governor charged all 3 cabinet members to build and set high standards within their department. Stephanie Brown, News 2.
In his speech at today's swearing-in ceremony, Governor Mapp complimented the many successful Virgin Islanders that live abroad and thanked Director Mulgrave and Commissioner Bennett for coming back home and taking on some new challenges. Turn our attention to crime reports. VIPD officers reported on Monday, January 18th at 6 a.m. Officers were dispatched to a residence on Prince and Scotta to investigate a report of child neglect. The complainant stated that she'd heard her neighbor screaming and shouting profanities at her 3-year-old boy sometime around 4 a.m. and eventually left the premises at 5:15 a.m., leaving the child locked in the home alone. The child was heard crying uncontrollably. The landlord of the property was summoned to provide entry for officers into the locked residence. Officers waited as the child mother returned to the home roughly at 7:26 a.m. The mother, pictured here, Shermer Joseph, 32 years of age, of Prince and Scotta, was arrested and charged with child neglect. Bail for Joseph was set at $1,000. On Saturday, January 16th at 11:36 a.m., officers received notification of a rape victim seeking treatment at the Juan Louis Hospital. Officers met with the victim, a 35-year-old female, who stated that on the morning of January 15th at roughly 9 a.m., she had been sitting at the bus stop adjacent to the Amigos gas station when a homeless man approached her. The man then assaulted her, pinned her down, and raped her at the bus stop. The woman said that she was familiar with the man and provided the officers with information as to where he may have been located. Monday, January 18th at approximately 8 a.m., officers received notification from the 911 emergency call center regarding an assault that occurred in the vicinity of Aqua Bistro located in Coral Bay. EMTs were treating a male victim for multiple stab wounds about the body and throat. Officers were informed that the victim had stated earlier that his wife stabbed him multiple times in an attempt to kill him. Officers were then able to find the victim's wife, Sally Ann Medina, who admitted to the attack. She was arrested and charged with third-degree assault around 8:30 a.m. On Monday, January 18th at 2:19 a.m., officers were dispatched to a disturbance at the Players Club in the Diamond Crest Mall in Sunny Isles. A 27-year-old woman stated that she and a group of friends had been at the club when one of the suspects offered drinks. They declined. The suspect and victim became embroiled in a confrontation, and he began swiping a knife, wounding her several times. The women attempted to leave, but did not because the suspect was outside discharging gunfire. Moments later, Markel Joseph, 18, of La Grande Princess, was arrested and charged with third-degree assault, and Darren Williams, Jr., 22, of Estate Glen, was charged with accessory after the fact. The Red Hook Community Group held a meeting with CAPA and government officials. Don't miss these meetings where you can voice your concerns and be heard. It's an opportunity to discuss crime, traffic, trash, and more around the neighborhood. The plan is to develop a plan to address the issues. Then a second meeting is held to discuss the plan of action. Virgin Islands delegate to Congress, Stacey Plaskett, would like to keep residents and families and business in the territory informed about what her office is doing on the people's behalf in D.C. And the delegate is hosting a town hall meeting. She hosted one yesterday on St. Croix in the Great Hall, University of the Virgin Islands Albert Sheen campus. Today, January 20th, the town hall meeting will be held on St. Thomas at Walkers by the Sea from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Persons with ideas and concerns are encouraged to share. Keeping our eye on the economy, let's take a look at the New York Stock Exchange with our Stock Market Watch. As we can see, everything down. The Dow down 249, NASDAQ 5, S&P 500 also down 22. Coming up on News 2, more on the Zika alert. The CDC has issued a warning for pregnant women. What you need to know. Welcome back. Late last week, Hawaii reported the birth of a baby with a condition linked to the Zika virus. It's the first Zika-related birth in the United States. Now, the Centers for Disease Control is urging pregnant women who've recently traveled to certain countries to get tested for the virus. News April Knight has more.
Pregnant women who recently traveled to Latin American countries and the Caribbean should undergo screenings for symptoms of the Zika virus. That's according to the CDC.
The biggest threat is to women who are pregnant in their first trimester. They should go to their healthcare provider, and healthcare providers have received guidance and training through the CDC and our local territorial epidemiologists.
The mosquito-borne virus has recently been linked to an increase in birth defects. Cases of infant microcephaly have skyrocketed where the virus is present. It causes babies to be born with seriously underdeveloped heads and brains. As of January, local transmission had been identified in at least 14 countries or territories in the Americas, including Puerto Rico, and it could spread to other islands in the region, according to the CDC.
We have had no confirmed cases at this time. There was a singular case reported in Puerto Rico, so the Department of Health is preparing in the event that we do see any cases. We're distributing free mosquito net through the NCH clinic.
Symptoms include fever, rash, joint pain, and red eyes, but the problem is that some 80% of infected people show no signs. Currently, there's no treatment for the virus. Health officials are advising pregnant women to postpone travel to infected areas. Some countries have even gone so far as to advise their citizens to delay pregnancy until the outbreak subsides. Reporting for News 2, I'm April Knight.
You can get more information on the Zika virus online at www.cdc.gov. A sickle cell symposium will be held at the Charlotte-Kimmelman Cancer Institute 3:30 p.m. on Thursday and Friday at the St. Croix Cardiac Center at noon. Sickle cell disease is a blood disorder that's inherited with people with sickle cell has disease that they have a higher chance of getting infections, stroke, and a condition called acute chest syndrome, which is caused by inflammation, infection, or blood vessels in the lungs that are blocked by sickled cells. The governor will also be in attendance. Here's more.
So it actually is seen in people of African descent, so people here in the Caribbean, people in actually Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and people from the Mediterranean. So Johns Hopkins actually has a grant, and the U.S. Virgin Islands is part of that grant. The speakers will actually be from Johns Hopkins, from their sickle cell program, so I'm looking forward to that. Also, part of the grant funding should be used to raise awareness, so I'll be sending out a survey to all the healthcare providers just to see if they're aware of, if they have patients who have sickle cell disease, and if they're aware of the best ways in which to manage these patients with sickle cell disease.
The Virgin Islands Department of Health launches the 2016 flu outreach program on St. Croix, and they're announcing that free flu shots will be available at 2 locations. On St. Croix, it's on Friday, January 22nd from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. The Department of Health will be giving those flu shots and information at the Governor Wanafui Hospital in the lobby. Now on Friday, January 29th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. via the health van located in the parking lot by the AARP office in the Sunny Isle Annex. Virgin Islands Department of Education's Office of the Insular Superintendent, St. Thomas St. John District, is notifying parents of the early dismissal of all public schools on Thursday, January 21st. Dismissals will take place 3 hours before normal release times, and they say are necessary to accommodate monthly job-embedded professional development for teachers. Lunch will be served before students are released, and buses will be dispatched to the schools to transport students to their normal drop-off locations. Parents are asked to ensure students are properly supervised following school dismissals. School will resume at normal times on Friday, January 22nd. And here are the times. Cancrine at 12, CAHS at 12:10, BCB at 11:25, Eudora County 11:50, Sproul School at 12, EWAA 12:10, The Abraham School, 1140. Muller School, 1140. Dober, 1145. Janie Twitt, 1135. Sibley, 11:30 a.m. Lockhart Elementary School, 1145. EBO, 1145. Gomez School, 1140. And Yvonne Bowski at 1140. Well, the Martin Luther King Jr. Parade on St. Croix was well attended over the weekend with many students. On Monday, many students from the St. Croix Elementary, Junior High, and High School District marched and chanted, "I Have a Dream." During the march, several marching bands entertained the viewing crowd with elaborate drum selections and dance routines. The keynoter and elected officials spoke about the importance of Martin Luther King Jr.
Federal holiday, there are states and institutions that do not recognize the significance of today. In 1970, after Martin Luther King Jr. was killed, the Virgin Islands commemorated his life 15 years ahead of the United States, recognizing his birthday as a holiday in 1986.
How many of us would have gone out there with Dr. Martin Luther King when the dogs were biting him, when the hose was spraying, when the licks were coming?
Great turnout there. Now, over here in St. Thomas, on Friday, the Hebrew congregation of St. Thomas, they honored 8 Virgin Island students for following in the footsteps of Dr. Martin Luther King. And the awardees were Irvin Mason Jr. of All Saints School, Jamoy Gerald of Antilles School, Tommy Wise of Charlotte Amalie High School, Vela Colbert of Gift Hill School, Sharon Williams Jr. of Ivana Udoracan High School, J.R. Smith of the Seventh-day Adventist, Camille Emmanuel of St. Peter and Paul, and Khalees Potter of VI Montessori School and Peter Gruber International Academy. Congratulations to all the students. Be sure to stick around. Your News to AccuWeather forecast is coming up next.